Ladies and gentlemen, take your seats, please. House Government Operations Committee for Monday, April 12th is called to order. Do we have any personal orders from any of the members of the committee? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Representatives Byrd, Calfee, Cochran, Crawford, Dixie, Faison, Johnson, Lafferty, Lamar, Littleton, Rudder, Stewart, Warner, Vice Chairman Reedy, Chairman Reagan.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We have enough. Okay. Members, we have some unusual timing on this. The first two bills I don't think are going to be controversial, so we'll run through those fairly quickly. First on our agenda is House Bill 347 by Speaker Johnson. You're recognized, sir. What do I hear? Do I have a motion in a second? We have a motion in a second. Please explain your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. House Bill 347 is introduced, makes confidential certain personal, financial, and residential information on federal law enforcement agents, private, where you can't disclose them. In past years, we've done this for state and local law enforcement, and this just adds federal.
Thank you, Mr. Sponsor. Do we have any questions on the bill of our sponsor? Question's been called, and seeing no objections, we are voting on sending House Bill 347 to calendar and rules. Positive recommendation. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Bill moves out to calendar and rules.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Committee.
Next on our agenda is House Bill 1195 by Representative Garrett. We have a motion in a second. And as soon as we get through with the sterilization there, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is House Bill 1195. It's my insurance transparency bill. Basically what it says is if you're in a pre-authorization setting and your doctor or your insurance carrier orders some sort of MRI and the insurance provider asks for additional information, that information needs to be copied to the patient. That's what the bill does. I'll be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Sponsor. And members, this is traveling with an amendment. This committee needs no action on that amendment. Do we have questions of the sponsor on his bill as amended? The question's been called. Without objection, we're voting on sending House Bill 1195 to calendar and rules. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Bill moves out to calendar and rules.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Committee.
Item number 3 on our agenda, House Bill 159 by Chairman Williams. You're recognized, sir. We have a motion. We have a motion in a second. And ladies and gentlemen of the committee, we do have a bit of a unique situation with this bill. If you look at your marked calendar, you'll note that it is traveling with amendment. It has one that's already on it. It has a proposed amendment, and we have an untimely filed amendment to put on it as well. All right, members, the untimely filed amendment is on your dashboard as opposed to your marked calendar. However, in the proper order here, we have a motion and a second on the bill as it's been amended by the House Civil Justice Committee, but we need to take up the proposed amendment, which is drafting code 6264. Mr. Sponsor, can you confirm that? We have a motion and a second on the amendment.
That is correct. I'm happy to describe that amendment before we get to the untimely one, if you prefer.
Well, would you prefer to do them all at once?
I can. I'm at the will of the chairman.
Mr. Chairman, let's go ahead and vote on this, get it put on, because then we'll have to take the vote to hear the untimely filed.
Any other comments or questions? All right. The question's been called on the amendment. Oh, I'm sorry, Representative Johnson, did you have a question? Before we vote on it? All right, since we have an objection, you wish to withdraw your question? Question is withdrawn. Mr. Sponsor, you are recognized to explain House Amendment 6264 to House Bill 159.
Thank you, Chairman, members. This amendment just allows for the House and Senate amendments to be the same. So that's why we have a new drafting code, but it's the same language which came out of civil. And so this amendment does rewrite the bill. It does have the same local Senate, state, and local committees did some renumerating as it relates to it. The intention of this legislation is to ensure that any private personal information that a state or local agency requires of any 501c organization is kept with that agency as confidential and not released to the public. To clarify, it's been said that there's a lot of things that this bill does do. Let me tell you what it does not do, which is really important. This bill does not change anything in regards to PACs and how they have to disclose the contributions that are made to those PACs. This bill does not change anything in regards to what is currently having to be disclosed with any 50C or 501c organizations. Many have asked me and others, does this allow dark money to be housed without being reported? The simple answer to that question is no. You would be referring to the 501c, those people were referring to 501c4 organizations, and those organizations have a government advocacy side which requires that they report that information. The government advocacy side will still have to disclose all those same information to the Secretary of State as it would require with any other governmental agency. If they employ a government advocate or lobbyist, that person would still have to disclose all the pertinent information. If they contribute to a PAC, that information will also have to be disclosed and open to the public. This bill only clarifies that the confidential information such as home addresses, phone numbers, etc. of those individuals will be kept confident. As a personal example, I will serve on the State Board of Habitat. If someone gives an anonymous contribution, this would preserve the privacy of that person to do it in the 501c3. Though creates a Class B misdemeanor if that information is released. That's the amendment that came out of civil, both in the House and in the Senate. I'm happy to answer any questions on the amendment that you might have.
Do we have questions on the amendment as explained? That was Amendment 6264. Any questions? Seeing none, is there an objection to putting the amendment on the bill? Seeing none, we're voting to put Amendment number 6264 on House Bill 159. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. One, if you wish to be recorded. The amendment is on the bill. The ayes have it. Now we have an untimely filed amendment to consider on this bill. Is there any objections to considering the untimely filed amendment? Seeing none, members, if you'll look on your dashboard programs, the untimely filed amendment is amendment number 7032. Is that right, Mr. Sponsor?
Yes, sir, it is.
Mr. Sponsor, you are clear to explain your untimely filed amendment.
Between the amendment filing deadline and today, we were contacted by Commerce and Insurance, and they were a little bit concerned about the language as it related to the Section 15A of the Securities Exchange Act of 1934. This bill would eliminate their concerns as it relates to, and clarify those concerns as it relate to that Securities and Exchange Act. That's all this amendment does. And it's untimely filed because I just found out about it 2 hours ago.
We have a motion and a second on the amendment. Motion. We have a motion and a second. You've heard the explanation. Any objection to putting this amendment, filing code 7032, on House Bill 159? Seeing no objection, we're voting on putting this amendment on the bill. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Please, if you wish to be recorded, nay, see the clerk. The amendment is on the bill without objection. I'm going to direct legal to combine these two amendments into one, so it leaves our committee as one amendment. Do we have any further discussion? Seeing none, we are voting on sending House Bill 159 to calendar and rules. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Bill moves out. If you wish to be recorded as no, see the clerk.
Thank you, Chairman.
All right, members, next on the calendar, we have, House Bill 360 by Hawk. Motion. We have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a motion and a second. And we have an amendment traveling with this bill. The amendment code traveling with the bill is 5070. Is that correct, Mr. Sponsor?
That is correct, Chairman and members.
You have a motion and a second on your bill, sir. Do you wish to give us an explanation before? we
Certainly.
vote?
Thank you
Okay.
very much. As amended, House Bill 360 gives the Tennessee Department of Commerce and Insurance a broad perspective on how insurance plans are doing in covering mental health care issues across the state of Tennessee. It's especially in comparison to other physical health care insurance plans that we have. So in a nutshell, it's a reporting mechanism that will give us an idea how we're doing in terms of covering folks with their mental health care insurance.
Members, you've heard an explanation of the bill. Do we have questions of the sponsor? Seeing none, without objection, we are voting on sending House Bill 360 to calendar and rules. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Ayes have it. Bills moved out to calendar and rules. Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Sponsor.
Thank you, Chairman members.
Next on the agenda is House Bill 750 by Chairman Boyd.
Motion.
We have a motion and a second. Chairman Boyd, you are carrying the bill unamended. Is that correct?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman.
You
Committee.
are recognized for an explanation on your bill.
House Bill 750 is a bill that will create a chronic weight management task force. There'll be members from the Senate, there'll be members from the House of Representatives, and there will be licensed certified endocrinologists appointed as well. And the purpose of this bill is not to determine whether obesity creates health problems. We know that. What this is intended to do is to study the cost effectiveness of actually treating obesity itself rather than the subsequent side effects that come from it. I'll take any questions, Mr. Chairman.
Members, you've heard an explanation of the bill. Do we have questions of the sponsor? Seeing none, without objection, we are voting on sending House Bill 750 to Finance, Ways and Means. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Ayes have it. The bill moves out to Finance, Ways and Means.
Thank you, Chairman and Committee.
Next on our agenda, item number 6, House Bill 755 by Chairman White.
Motion.
We have a motion and a second. Chairman White, your bill is traveling with an amendment. I show drafting code 5819. Is that correct?
That is correct.
The amendment is already on the bill. This committee needs no action on that. Mr. Chairman White, you are clear to explain your bill.
Okay, members, what this bill does, it does give clarity language to how the state board may grant waivers to our local educational agencies when it comes to textbook and instruction materials. And I can go into detail about that. Back in, I think a special session, we passed a bill administration bill where a Common Core could not be used in our textbooks and or instruction materials. But there are exceptions when it does line up with the Tennessee standards. And so the LEA may want to ask for a waiver, which is now going through our state board. And so basically this lines the date up with this bill and the bill that we previously passed. And this statutory change gave the decision on these waivers to the board rather than the commissioner. It further states that the 12-person staff on the State Board of Education may, and that's the key word, may receive assistance from the Department of Education, which has the subject matter experts on staff and has always previously done this work. As a result of the word may being used in the statute rather than the word shall, it created a staffing issue. The Department of Education already moved their people out to other things. So what this says is both this legislation and the administration bill on Common Core line instruction materials redesignate and realign the same sections of the code but have conflicting enactment dates. This lines it up. In order to pass both bills without the provisions of each bill adversely affecting the other, certain provisions of the administration bill need to be restated in this bill, and that amendment makes the bill. And lastly, the bill fixes that problem and also makes clear that the state board can establish specific windows of time when LEAs can request these waivers. This allows the department to have staffing patterns that allow for the necessary bandwidth to be dedicated to this work. And that's basically what this bill does. And any further questions, I have our state board representative, Mr. James, here, if we do have any detailed questions.
Members, you've heard an explanation of the bill as it's amended. We need to take no action on the amendment. Questions of the sponsor? The question has been called. We are voting on sending House Bill 755 to calendar and rules. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Bill moves out to calendar and rules.
Thank you, Committee and Chairman.
Item number 7 on our agenda, House Bill 90 by Chairman Powers. We have a motion and a second on that. And Chairman Powers, I show your bill is traveling with an amendment number 4923. Is that correct, sir?
That is correct. Thank you.
The amendment is on the bill. This committee needs to take no action on that. Mr. Sponsor, you're cleared to explain your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee. House Bill number 90 is an administration bill. Presently, the Office of Surface Mining regulates surface coal mining in Tennessee. Tennessee is the only state in the union coal that mines coal that does not do its own primacy. So in 2018, I sponsored the Primacy and Reclamation Act, directing the governor to pursue state oversight of the Surface Mining Control and Reclamation Act, frequently referred to as primacy. The General Assembly voted to adopt the act, now published as Public Chapter 839. The 2018 Act laid out the foundation for the state to obtain primacy and move us toward establishing a state rather than a federal surface coal mining program. Since that time, however, the administration sought an informal review of the 2018 Act from OSM, and the feedback is clear. Changes must be made in order for Tennessee to receive primacy. To receive primacy, our program must be at least, OSM said, our program must be at least as stringent as a federal law, and that the state has the financial capability to administrate and operate the program. To advance the goal of the 2018 Act, this bill will incorporate the feedback received from OSM by aligning the program more closely with the federal SMACRA, they call it, statute. This alignment is the most efficient and expedient path to the best position Tennessee can do to receive approval of and maintain a state surface coal mining program. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll renew my motion.
Representative Johnson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I've got a couple of questions here.
Sure.
Can you confirm that coal production in Tennessee has declined 91% between 2009 and 2018, and that no coal was produced in the last 3 quarters of 2020? When this decline is matching what we've seen in other states that never gave up the SMACRA primacy, why would we think adopting this bill would have any change here? There are currently more than 90 permitted coal sites in Tennessee under OSM regulation, yet none of them are producing coal.
Mr. Sponsor, you wish to address that?
Yes, thank you. Yes, there actually is 98, and they're all going through, we still have to, our department will still have to regulate those and do the inspections of those. I think they do them quarterly, but they'll still have to do those. But coal mining has declined in some states. One reason coal mining has declined here, we don't have primacy. We're the only state in the union that doesn't. A couple of years ago, Senator Yeager and I went to Kentucky, and we went to the Capitol there and met with their Department of Environment and Conservation and said, how are you able to get out a permit in 8 to 12 months when it's taken us 3 to 4 years to get a permit in the state of Tennessee? They're mining a lot of coal in Kentucky. We want to do the same thing in Tennessee. And our coal, not much of it is used for fuel. A lot of our coal is used for electronics, carbon fiber, solar panels, other things like that. We call it the blue gem scene.
Follow up, Representative Johnson.
Yes, that's true. We don't use that coal here in Tennessee. So concern is if coal companies go bankrupt, is Tennessee going to have to take on the cost of cleaning up their mine sites? Because who's going to handle reclamation? We're seeing a lot of coal companies go under. And it seems odd to me to say that we've got 98 open permits, but yet no coal is being mined, but somehow this would make a difference.
Mr. Sponsor, you're cleared.
Yeah, these are older permits, and there again, we don't have primacy, and that's one reason we're not doing that. We do have Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation here with us to answer some questions that she may have. If, Mr. Chairman, could we go out of session for a few moments and invite them up?
I'm sorry, Mr. Sponsor, the names were not submitted 24 hours in advance. So therefore, we cannot do that.
I'm sorry. I thought they were. I apologize.
Wait, hang on one here.
Which-
We'll recheck our list. We have 2 names.
Yes.
Beatty and Horace, is that right? Are they present?
Blair Beatty is present. From TDEC, if she would come up.
Ms. Beatty, for the record, make sure you've got your light on in the microphone. Give us your name and your organization and your comments, please. Wait a minute, sorry. We're out of session.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chairman. Blair Beatty, Legislative Liaison with the Department of Environment and Conservation. And I apologize, Representative Johnson, would you mind repeating your question, please, ma'am?
Check your mic, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Kind of boils down to, we have in 2018, they said there was no fiscal note with this. We've got a revised bill that indicates that it's going to cost us close to $1 million per year. And so I'm curious, with the industry being in trouble, with already having permits out there and no coal being mined, and then the last 3 quarters of 2020, no coal being mined. It seems like our taxpayers are going to be paying for something that's not going to yield anything. And it looks like predictions are 20% of the cost is all that's going to be paid by what is mined.
Ms. Beatty, you recognized?
Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am. I can't speak to the industry of coal throughout the whole country, but I do think that, as Chairman pointed out, we're the only state right now of those that are mining coal that does not have primacy over this program. And I think that that might be reflective of why we don't have active industry right now and why we haven't seen new industry in the past few years. This act was passed so that we could encourage new companies to come to Tennessee. So I think that the hope and the expectation is that it will revitalize those that are already here and bring some of those others back to Tennessee.
Representative Johnson, follow up.
So it seems like TDEC doesn't expect coal mining to increase, as there's no increase in that note as of a result of passing primacy.
Ms. Beatty, you recognized?
I'm not sure if I understand your question, ma'am. I'm sorry.
Representative Johnson, please clarify.
The revised fiscal note on the bill indicates that they don't expect any increase in collection of coal severance tax. So if you're not expecting an increase of coal severance tax, it would appear that you don't expect coal mining to increase as a result of passing primacy.
Well, I think it'll
Ms.
take,
Beatty?
I'm sorry, Chairman. I think it'll take a few years before we're able to estimate what the increase or decrease, whatever the change might be to the severance tax. It's going to take a couple more years to get the program approved and established. So I don't know exactly how fiscal came to that conclusion, but I would guess that maybe since it's still a few years out before we'll have the program in place, they weren't able to put a number on that, if that makes sense.
Okay, so we're going to go through a couple
Representative Johnson, you recognized?
Thank you. So we're going to go through a couple of years of paying that, nearly $1 million plus to find out if any of this is actually going to bear fruit in an industry that is literally dying, and coal that we can't even use in Tennessee.
I do think that the administration would like to invest and see if we can revitalize the coal industry in Tennessee. Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Johnson, Representative Johnson, you have follow-up?
Well, this is a huge cost to the taxpayer with no definite return, so I can't be in support of this.
Do we have other questions of our witness while we're out of session? Seeing none. Thank you. Ms. Beatty, you're excused.
Thank you, Chairman.
We are back in session. The bill before us is House Bill 90. Do we have questions of the sponsor on the bill? Seeing none, without objection, we are voting on sending House Bill 90 to Finance, Ways and Means. All in favor say aye. All opposed, nay. If you wish to be recorded as a no, see the clerk. The ayes have it. The bill moves out to Finance, Ways and Means. Thank you, Mr. Sponsor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee.
Item number 8, House Bill 1181.
Motion.
We have a motion and a second. As soon as we get the sanitation taken care of. Chairman Rudd, your bill is traveling with an amendment. I show amendment number 5537. Is that correct, sir? Yes, sir. We also have a proposed amendment, amendment number 6978. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Motion on the amendment.
We have a motion and a second on the amendment. And Representative Rudd, would you care to explain what this amendment does to your bill?
Yes, the amendment makes no substantive changes. It's a technical amendment. The Department of Health and the District Attorneys Association requested this. And they rearranged, the health department wanted a rearrangement of the bill, not the content of it, so they could better understand how to implement it. They separated forms from rules, and we got that in different sections rather than before they were mixed. So it'd be easier on them to implement, and they could implement it faster. And then the Attorney General's Association said they wanted to, the section in there they put in, they said they wanted to clarify that these facilities still had to comply with law enforcement and criminal investigations if they had a judicially approved and a warrant of the collection of any evidence, which is what they can do now. They just wanted that clarified in this bill. And that's what the amendment does, sir.
Members, you've heard an explanation of the amendment. Without objection, we're going to put the amendment on the bill. All in favor of adding amendment number 6978 to House Bill 1181 indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. The amendment is on the bill. And Mr. Sponsor, I think that amendment basically was your bill. Am I correct?
That just changed the bill. It didn't make the bill, but it did add, and it rearranged the bill, and it did add that one section from the District Attorneys Association.
Members, do you have questions of the sponsor? Representative Johnson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, how come there is no option to send tissue to pathology? Doctors sometimes need to do that when it comes to further examination, either after a miscarriage or an abortion, but there's no option in the bill to send tissue to pathology.
Mr. Sponsor, you're recognized.
Thank you. Well, as far as a miscarriage, or if a baby is removed that died in the womb or had to be removed in a hospital, that's not covered here. That's already in law. And that wouldn't be a part of what this is. This is an elective surgical abortion is all that we're covering. And tissue, it does not prohibit tissue. It just says that the aborted baby has to be treated with dignity and either cremated or buried.
Representative Johnson, follow up.
Yes, but then again, sometimes even there, tissue needs to be sent to pathology.
Mr. Sponsor.
Again, this bill doesn't prohibit that.
If the bill
But,
provides,
excuse me. Let's let someone who hasn't asked a question ask one. Leader Dixie, you're recognized. Primary Chairman Dixie.
I was looking at this and I have a question. When one of my friends, when his father passed away, he was able to donate his body to science, to a university to study it. How does this bill impact that ability for the mother to, if they wanted to donate the fetus to science or to a university for further study?
Mr. Sponsor.
You in the event that is an elective surgical abortion and not a medical health reason, you would not be able to do that. You can bury it. Either the facility can bury it, the parents can bury it, and that's the two options. Now, if it's in a hospital, if it's aborted in a hospital, or it's a dead fetus removed from the womb, in that case, that it could be.
Chairman Dixie.
I think that we should allow the parents to be able to make that decision for themselves. And I don't think that's a decision that the state should be making for them, how, if they wanted to donate their, the fetus or the aborted fetus to science or to a university. I think that maybe you could address that in this bill, but I just didn't see that it was addressed, and you confirmed that it wasn't addressed in that bill. But that's why I just think that maybe parents should have that option if that's what they would like to do.
Mr. Sponsor, you want to address that?
Not in depth. I think that we're talking about a baby that has been discarded, is not wanted, that is being surgically terminated, and there's no guarantee in the case that you're talking about that the baby would be properly disposed of once it's outside the control of the facility.
Representative Johnson, did you have a follow-up?
yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. Why is the focus only on fetuses from in-clinic abortions instead of every fetus? If we're talking about dignity of life, like hospitals, spontaneous abortions, miscarriages, IVF, and medical abortions.
Mr. Sponsor, you're recognized.
It says in the bill very clearly that hospitals already have these policies in place. However, it says in the bill that if a hospital policies that are in place, which already properly dispose of the bodies of an unborn child, that if they must follow the guidelines in the policy of this law. If they don't, then this law would kick into place. So right now, hospitals are not included because they don't perform elective abortions. You can't just walk in a hospital and say, I want an abortion. It's always due to the life of the mother or removing a dead baby from the womb. And they already have policies to properly dispose of babies now. And again, the bill says that those policies must reflect this legislation.
Representative Johnson, please, last follow-up.
It seems like you're setting a different precedent for different places and different, but they're all, the same as the way you see it. And there's also the very real concern of forcing a victim of rape to bury a fetus.
Mr. Sponsor, you wish to follow up?
Well, it doesn't force the mother to bury the fetus at all. It says that the mother can walk out of the clinic, and then the facility would then take care of it. And there is a very, very big difference in the difference between the two. Hospitals who are forced to do this because of the health of the mother, because they could die, or the baby has already died and the womb has to be removed, they already have dignified policies in place that deal with this. When you talk about clinics that perform elective abortions, they have no policies in place. They have no laws in Tennessee code. We have code Tennessee that mandates how you treat dead animals, how they're to be disposed of. You can't just throw them in the trash. They have to be cremated or buried. But we don't have the same policies in place for a human being. And that's in Tennessee code now. We don't have anything in Tennessee code about these babies that are aborted. What happens in abortion facilities that have elective abortions, most of them are, and we have 2 in this state. We used to have 3. One's open part-time. The other 2 are open, I believe, 2 days a week. The way it's handled now throughout the country and in facilities here is that babies are aborted and they're disposed of in one of 3 ways. They're either thrown in the bag with medical waste and thrown out with the trash or incinerated. They're ground up and flushed down the toilet or the drain. And we just and you can't do that legally with a dog or a cat, a pet, or a farm animal. There's rules in place that TDEC has and other agencies have for the proper disposal of animals. We want the same dignity applied to a child.
Representative Johnson, last follow-up, please.
Thank you. So how do hospitals do that?
You recognize, Mr. Sponsor.
Again, hospitals have policies in place that already reflect this bill. What they do is they, number one, they turn the baby over to the mother who wants to bury it. Or they, if the mother doesn't want to, then they send it to the morgue. And the morgue at that point, as any unclaimed body, is either buried or cremated.
The question's been called. Without objection, we are voting on sending House Bill 1181 to calendar and rules. Yes. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. If you wish to be recorded as a nay, see the clerk. Ayes have it. Bill moves out to calendar and rules. Thank you, Mr. Sponsor. Item number 9 on our agenda, House Bill 887 by Chairman Calfee. Motion. We have a motion and a second on your bill, Chairman Calfee. Your bill is traveling with an amendment. I show 5221 as the drafting code. Is that correct, sir? That's correct. Okay, the amendment is already on the bill. No action is needed in this committee. We have a motion and a second. You are clear to explain your bill, sir.
Yes, sir. There's quite an interest. We got a dust up here a couple years ago about people getting kayak and canoe. Your microphone. Okay. About tying up the boat ramps on the lakes and rivers of Tennessee. So a lot of people like to do this activity in the state parks and the natural areas. And this would set up a mechanism which will have to come back through here on rules to people that rent, but not limited to, kayaks, paddle boards, canoes, rock climbing gear, any of those things that people would use in a natural area or a state park. And then the Department of Conservation and Environment would come back with the rules, and we would with a fee schedule and all that, and we would consider those at that time.
Members, you've heard an explanation of the bill as amended. Do we have questions of the sponsor? Representative Warner, you recognized?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Sponsor there. Does this bill or whatnot, does it put a fee on individuals putting in the state parks like a canoe or a kayak, or is it just for like small businesses that rent?
No, sir, just people doing it for commercial operations.
Good deal.
Representative
Thank
Warner,
you.
follow-up? Any other questions of the sponsor? Seeing none, we're voting on sending House Bill 887 to Finance, Ways and Means. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Bill moves out to Finance, Ways and Means.
Thank you, Chairman and committee.
Mr. Vice Chair, I pass the gavel to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, on House Bill 581, there is an amendment traveling with the bill, 5451. Mr. Chairman, you are recognized. We got a motion and a second on the bill.
Thank you, Mr.
As
Chair.
amended.
And that is the amendment that I have. This bill was brought to me by the County Officials Association of Tennessee. What it does is provide an additional avenue for notifying the next of kin of conservatorship proceedings. Current law allows only certified mail notice to the next of kin. A problem for the next of kin whose whereabouts are unknown exists. And there are also extraordinary circumstances in which the U.S. Postal Service cannot or will not deliver certified mail, for example, during a natural disaster or pandemic. This bill alleviates the situation also where no address can be found for the next of kin. It clarifies that medical records attached to the position for conservatorship are confidential. Currently, that is not the case, although it is implied. The medical records may be retrieved and unsealed by an attorney representing the individual under conservatorship, though. This also clarifies that a petitioner is responsible for the cost of publication if it's required. Simply stated, with the amendment, that covers the bill. I stand ready to answer questions.
Thank you, Chairman Reagan. Any questions, comments for Chairman Reagan on the bill as amended? The question has been called. All those in favor of sending House Bill 581 to calendar and rules signify by saying aye. Any opposition, nay. Bill moves out, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Reagan, you are recognized on House Bill 271, the Bureau of Ethics and Campaign Finance. Do we have a motion and a second? Chairman Reagan.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. This is a basic sunset law, and what it does is extend the Bureau of Ethics and Campaigns to June 30th, 2027. And there's not much to explain beyond that.
Question has been called. No opposition to that. All those in favor of sending House Bill 271 to calendar and rules signify by saying aye. Any opposition, nay. Bill moves out to calendar and rule. Chairman Reagan, the committee is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Before we adjourn, I have an announcement. Does anybody else have any business to come before the committee, though? Seeing none, a reminder that the joint committee on rules will be meeting on April the 26th, which is 2 weeks from now. We will meet next week for our usual House committee meeting, depending on what bills are in front of us. If we have no other business to come before us, do I have a motion to adjourn? Non-debatable. We are adjourned.